Welcome to Nada Yada Island.
Next on Metro's Nada Yada Island podcast.
I almost fainted when the 4 new bombshells arrived. 4 free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G phones at Metro.
No way.
And finding out the 4th line is free. Oh, things got heated.
That's wild. Join Metro and get 4 free Samsung 5G phones. Only at Metro.
Plus tax. Bring 4 numbers and an ID and sign up for any Metro Flex plan. Not available currently at T-Mobile or been with Metro in the past 180 days.
Welcome to Mind Love, episode 11. Today's episode is all about following your gut and creating your vision.
Turn up your frequency with Mind Love. Bite-sized brain hacks for seekers, dreamers, and doers. It's time to give your mind a little love with your host, Melissa Monti.
Hello, beautiful people. So I've been doing a lot of interviews for other podcasts lately, and it's been really interesting reflecting on my own story in such a linear way. The ups and downs, the laughter and tears, the wins and the jail time. And there was a moment that I was putting together all the pieces and seeing it all come together that I realized, wow, that's my story. So far, that is. Maybe those things did happen for a reason. Maybe it makes a little more sense than I thought it did at the time. Well, today we're talking to somebody that I can really relate to, and I'm sure a lot of you out there can as well. Her name is Julie Cielo, and she's considered a master of her craft with over 20 years of experience in health and wellness as a yoga therapist and transformational life coach. But her path for getting here was a wild ride. She basically grew up in the boonies, and instead of sitting at home trying to figure out what to do with her life, she went out and took action. Just following her interests, and through trial and error, eliminated possibilities one by one. She can talk to dead people, which is something that we touched on in episode 7. She worked at a funeral home, she started her own company, and she even recovered from a crushing autoimmune disease. And then she lost everything and had to start from scratch. But Julie sees challenges as opportunities and has helped thousands of people with her signature vision workshops, helping people to forge a path that was a little less rocky than her own journey. But I'll let her tell you all about it because you're going to want to hear this. Julie, thank you so much for being on the show, but I have to start out with the dead elephant in the room. How in the world did you end up at mortuary school?
Oh my goodness, Melissa. Well, I went to college for mortuary because I was that weird kid growing up where, I stole all the other kids' frog corneas in biology class and made necklaces, and I would collect animal bones from the woods. I grew up on 44 acres of land in Pennsylvania with my grandparents. So picking up animal bones and putting them in jars and alcohol in my bedroom. And I was working in my mother's beauty salon doing makeup, and a family friend came and she said, why don't you come down and work in the funeral home and do makeup for the people that were preparing for viewing? And I thought, oh, how fun. I had been gutting a lot of deer and kind of took pride in cleaning animals. And I was like, well, yeah, let's do it. So I got down there and it just was a lot more fun than I had expected. And she said, there's an emerging field called reconstructive cosmetic artistry. You should consider it. And there aren't very many women. And 6 months later, I was on a Greyhound bus on my way to Boca Raton, Florida to attend one of the only mortuary schools in the South. And interestingly, I trained under a man who they called the father of mummification.
I can't help but think that mortuary school would just be creepy, and it would take a special kind of person. But I guess to be fair, I never stole frog corneas, so...
Something else I should tell you, a little background, is that I've been talking to dead people since I was 8, which is what made me sit in cemeteries as many hours as I could when I wasn't in school, because I was just, wanting to try to make contact with them. And so I did. I made contact so much that was the exact reason why I ended up getting out of the space.
So when was that first time that you realized you could talk to dead people, and what was that experience like?
Well, it was with my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother started speaking to me immediately after she had died. And I knew it was her. She had just died. And her mother, I was close to her. She, my grandmother. So her daughter. And she was telling me what to tell her. And the more I was telling her what she was telling me to tell her, it was helping my grandmother. She went from grieving, just bawling her eyes out, to having some nurturance around the loss. She realized that her mother wasn't gone. She was just in a different place. And I was fascinated with this. My grandmother really nurtured that gift. She believed what I was saying. She stopped crying. The grieving was getting better. She would even ask me questions, and then I would get responses from my great-grandmother. So that's when it started at age 8. And I spent years just looking for more dead people to talk to.
Before we go deep today, I want to give you a little gift, and I want to give it to you every single day. It's called the Morning Mind Love. I know how life can be. You're all fired up after an inspiring episode, and then a new day or a new challenge comes at you, and it's just hard to keep up that energy. Well, the Morning Mind Love is kind of like an oracle from your higher self to help you start each day with a positive focus. Plus, when you sign up, you get 2 free gifts, a 30-minute binaural meditation and 30 days of journaling prompts to help you remember who you truly are. And it's all completely free. So join over 9,000 people and go to mindlove.com to sign up, or text the word morning to 33777. So does talking to dead people sound more like hearing your own intuition, or is it more of a clear voice?
Well, it's more of a clear voice, and it's not something that happens to me every day. What I found over the years as a body worker is that, I don't know these people, so it'll come through as what feels like intuition as well. So it's a little bit of both. It's not like the movies where, you see the person and you hear their exact voice. It comes through as like you just know that it's their voice, but it's actually your voice.
Okay, so you love talking to dead people, you join their sorority at a mortuary school, and then you switch to gut health and starting your own company around that. How did that happen?
Yeah, so after mortuary school, I became a body worker. I was putting my ex-husband through school, and I was under a lot of stress, and I was probably doing like 10 massages a day, putting him through college for 4 years. And I also was on a mission to clean up my past. I had a very tumultuous childhood, and I have a mother with borderline personality disorder. So I was on a mission to clean up my life. And I thought that the way to do that was by cleaning out my intestines and my body through herbs. So I started taking tons of herbal cleansing and doing colonics at least once a week. I was on the colonic table one day, and the right quadrant of my abdomen swelled up really big, and it alarmed the colon therapist. And she said, go to the bathroom and get rid of the water. So I did, and it came out like battery acid, and I knew something was wrong. And from that point forward, I had a rapid decline in my health. I had hypoglycemia, blurred vision. I couldn't put anything in my mouth without my stomach swelling and cramping. It was out of control. I looked like I was 8 months pregnant. And I went from doctor to doctor, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And I finally landed on a naturopath who tested my stool. And what I did was I stripped all the beneficial bacteria from my gut, trying to become the cleanest person in the world. I couldn't work, and I was practically bedridden. So I got a degree in natural health, and I learned what I needed to do to nurse myself back.
Sometimes it takes really feeling like you might have screwed up your body to make lasting changes. That's what happened to me when suddenly I realized I had chronic gastritis and there was so much pain in my stomach. And all I kept thinking was, what if this is how I give myself intestinal cancer? What if all of those years of being bulimic have finally caught up to me, and it felt like some sick joke that it was all happening after I had already begun my healing process from that eating disorder? But as I have to keep reminding myself, everything happens for a reason, and that was a major catalyst for me switching to a vegan diet, which I'm so glad that I did. And thankfully, my symptoms went away. How long was that healing process for you?
It took about 1.5 years, but the autoimmune disease, how it ended up manifesting was spots, depigmentation on my skin. So what people don't realize is that if you push your body far enough, you can trigger an autoimmune disease that you're genetically predisposed to. So who knows what really triggered it? But I do know this. When I started to repopulate my gut, all of the other symptoms started going away. I mean, it did take time. It wasn't overnight. The depigmentation has never changed. All the vitiligo, so if you know what vitiligo, Michael Jackson disease, it all came out at the same time. And it's on all of my joints. So my hands, my wrists, my knees, the tops of my feet, all depigmented at the same time. And then as soon as I repopulated my gut, the depigmentation stopped. But the melanin never came back into the skin. I'm on a mission to, see if I can continue to try to do that. But I also have learned it's really important to embrace yourself the way that you are. If I feel healthy and I have spots on my skin, I need to shake the vanity and realize that I have lots of imperfections, but they're what make me sexy and unique. So I tell people that, I'm part cheetah.
I love that. Gut is super important to me too. And I know this is a podcast on mindset, but gut plays such a big part in our lives. Our gut is what processes everything that we do to nourish our bodies. So your gut health is going to affect more areas of your life than you may think.
If you have unforgiveness, if you have disgust for your body, if you have all these deep-seated feelings of unworthiness, you're never ever going to have good gut health, because the gut and the mind are connected. The gut and the heart are connected. If you're not living your purpose, you're not going to be able to have good gut health. Why? Because what you think affects the chemistry of your body, and it also affects the energy, your vibration and frequency. So thoughts create feelings, those feelings create vibration, and that vibration creates matter in your life, in the projection of your eyes through what it is that you believe that you deserve, or through what's happening in the chemistry of your body. So I'm not, really one to say, oh, this probiotic and this hydrochloric acid and this, fiber are all going to fix you and make you well. I've done that and it doesn't work. You can eat organic all day long, but if you're not cleaning up your thoughts and how those thoughts are creating feelings, it doesn't matter. You got to go to the real core. The real core is at the core beliefs of what are operating your life.
That is just so true. So many people have asked me how I healed my eating disorder. And it's interesting because when I look back, a lot of the healing started to come very naturally when I started just getting my shit together. And I started to take control of my own happiness and just level up my life. So tell us about your personal steps to healing and how it inspired your next business decision.
Well, I first had to get all of the things that I was sensitive to out of my diet. So wheat and dairy, sugar, the culprits that everyone probably knows to be what aren't good for a healing gut. What really inspired Femme Fatale is I was at a Dave Matthews concert during this time period where I was only able to eat salad I couldn't even have vinegar in my dressing. I had to have lemon juice with olive oil. It was a year and a half of pure hell. And, being 24, I'm at this Dave Matthews concert eating salad, and I'm looking around at my friends tapping a keg, and I was drinking water, and I felt so sorry for myself, which isn't a good feeling, to feel like you're a victim of your life. And I just remember thinking, like, nobody should feel this way. Nobody should feel left out, no matter if they're pregnant, recovering from an autoimmune disease, in AA, no matter what. Nobody should feel left out, like there isn't fun for those people to be had as well. So that's, whenever I came up with the idea for Femme Fatale, it was really inspired because of that.
So the philosophy behind Femme Fatale is live clean, drink dirty. And it's a beverage mixer full of probiotics that are good for your gut. But unfortunately, it didn't make it to market. The funding Julie got just wasn't enough. It was a $3 million project, and she only got $150,000 in funding. So she had to make another decision to pivot. For the entrepreneurs or people in the startup world out there, you know that sometimes pivots are necessary, but man, can they be difficult. And oftentimes, it's not your ideas that are the problem. It's your mindset.
An ongoing issue forever for me has been, am I worthy of this? Am I worthy of just being bold and putting myself out there? When the funding came so rapidly, I didn't even think about whether or not I was worthy to receive it. I've had a lot of things to overcome. I mean, this project, when I ran out of funding, meant that there were still bills coming in. I mean, there still are bills coming in for Femme Fatale. There's legal and all kinds of stuff that people don't realize that goes into creating an LLC. And I have all my heavy equipment in a storage unit for almost 2 years now. It's cost me over $10,000. So ongoing bills left me homeless for five months last year. I almost went into bankruptcy over this project, and I pushed all of my personal chips into it, drained my IRA. So the first part of my career, I was pretty successful in Florida. And coming out here 5 years ago, I've been trying to recreate myself, and that hasn't been the easiest journey.
Recreating yourself can be one of the scariest things in the world. Leaving the security of a corporate job, or leaving an unhappy or unhealthy marriage, or really taking any big risk in life. How did you cope with that?
I hit a low point, really low point. I mean, bathroom floor, fetal position, like, what the fuck have I done with my life? I left, a marriage. I really started to reconsider, have I destroyed my life by coming out here and risking everything? And, I had to come to that very dark moment before I started to realize, no, you were divinely guided. Stay on your path. After utilizing the principles that have really kind of kept my head above water, I'm realizing now that I needed to go through all of this, just like I needed to go through everything I went through before in my life. I needed to go through all of it to get me to the place that I am right now.
You really had to go with your gut on some huge decisions. I know I've definitely had feelings that something's not right, and sometimes it takes me a long time to be able to take action on those decisions. And you've had to make some really big decisions, including leaving your marriage and shutting down production of Femme Fatale. And now that's a big part in what you do, is helping people to make those big decisions and create a vision for their future. So what are the first steps to even realizing that you might need to make a change?
Notice what you're noticing. Notice what you're noticing all the time. Notice what you're noticing. And if you notice what you're noticing, you're going to discover that your heart has some longing and discontent. I mean, obviously, if I was crying myself to sleep every night for 6 years in a spare bedroom, I had a lot of longing and discontent. So it's first important to honor that. and to realize what it is. So you can ask the next question, which is, what would I love? And once you determine what it is that you would love, the life that you would absolutely love living, then you can start to create a vision for your life. So what is the most ideal romantic relationship? What would you love to be doing with your career? What does that look like? How are you spending your time? How do you want to express yourself and be in the world? And what are you doing with your free time? Where are you traveling? What are you doing? And when you start to create this vision for your life, which honestly, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and I didn't realize it until now. Not losing that childhood ability to say, gosh, I can do anything I want to do. I've never lost that. And I do believe that's what's gotten me to where I'm at right now, because to have the balls, so to speak, to just pick up and go somewhere where I don't know anybody, that takes vision.
A vision is so important because so many people just have this dream that they think will happen somewhere along the pipeline, but it never really does because you have to lay out a plan and take action. And action can be scary because what if I fail? What if people hate it? What if it flops? What if I end up homeless for 5 months? Then what?
When you don't give yourself any other option, it's my vision or nothing. There's no alternative. You find a way. Fear, for me personally, has been something that I've always learned to embrace because I lived in a state of fear with a mother with borderline personality disorder. I mean, I was afraid to just exist growing up. So I learned early on to use fear as my companion and to use it knowing that fear is not something to be pushed away. It's something to be embraced. It's something that tells us, whether or not it's safe. And if I didn't rely on my gut instincts growing up, I don't know what would have happened to me. I mean, I always just trusted whatever my gut was telling me because I just instinctively knew that I had an innate intelligence and a connection with source that if I listened to it, it would tell me where I needed to go because my ego isn't as smart as that source.
It's an unfortunate truth that some of the traumas from our childhoods can manifest in the biggest ways in our futures. I'm curious what it would be like to grow up with a mother with borderline personality disorder because I feel like even people with perfectly normal mothers think their mothers are crazy sometimes. So do you have any stories that would give us a sense of what that was like for you?
I don't even know which one to share here. The one that comes to mind is, so she was married 6 times, and after she left her second husband, we were only living with him for about a year in Connecticut. And she left, and we were living like in the projects. So we went from living in this like bomb ass house, like in a beautiful place, to then we were like in the projects. And she, I don't know if it's just a part of the disease or what, but she would make a lot of bad decisions, and she decided that she was going to give the keys to our apartment to the neighbor. And I told her at age 6, I said, I don't think it's a good idea to give her the keys. And she was like, oh, that's silly. And we came home one day, and I went to my bedroom, and my silver dollar, which I had, I just was all about this silver dollar. It was like a prized possession to me, was gone from my dresser. And I went into the bedroom, and I said to her, my silver dollar is gone. I think we've been robbed. And she was like, oh, and then she realized, yes, we had been robbed. And I just said, it's the neighbors. I know, it's the neighbors. And she was like, no way, I don't believe it. And so she goes over to the neighbor, and the woman answers the door, and she's all upset, and she looks towards the parking lot, and my mother had gotten all these furs from her second husband, and he was very wealthy, and all these furs were hanging out of this Pontiac. and she starts chasing the woman's partner down through this parking lot, and the furs are hanging out the back, and so I'm running after her, and the guy grabs her by the head and puts a gun to her head and says, "You want to see your mom die today?" And I said, "No." no, not today. And, you know, she stopped fighting and they sped off. And, you know, it was always that kind of chaos with her. And I learned from an early age just to stay grounded, stay calm, and breathe. I mean, I really, really am grateful that I had a really chaotic childhood, because it's taught me a lot.
It takes such a strong person to express gratitude for a chaotic childhood like that. But I do know what you mean. When trauma hit me back to back when I was a teenager and in college, I had such a great life before all that I was just ill-equipped to handle it. I felt like a baby deer in a bullfight. How did you begin to heal trauma like that?
I learned from a very young age how to disassociate and not feel. And I didn't know that until recently, in the past few years. I would say that the deepest healing work that I've done has been in what I call this last 5 years, the dark night of my soul. I've had to go through the darkness to really find my inner light. And I was a good mortician because, I mean, I removed my first brain with a cranial saw. Why? Because I was able to disassociate. As much as a, empath and intuitive, I could feel other people. But I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't feel my own feelings until I went to therapy, a specific kind of therapy, and learned whenever I would bring an old memory to mind, and she would say, "Where do you feel it in your body?" I'm like, that's just foreign to me. I don't know all of my feelings were happening intellectually. So I had to learn how to have feelings again. When you're abused and you're had things happen to you, you're either going to numb out with drugs and alcohol, or you're going to find a way to numb your body out just as a self-protective mechanism. So I had to relearn how to feel.
That's so well put. And it's exactly what I did after being raped and just disassociating any feelings of worth over my body or feeling at all. Is there anything that's easy to do at home that was really helpful for you in bringing that feeling and awareness back to your body?
I would encourage anybody that's gone through things to bring something to mind, something that might still be lingering, and then ask, where do I feel this in my body? And what feeling am I feeling? And then emotion needs to stay in motion. So, allowing that emotion to come in, and then using the breath and allowing the emotion to roll out. I was crippled with anxiety, and anytime she'd ask me, where do you feel that? I would say, oh my gosh, my head feels like it's going to pop off. And I truly believe that's why a lot of people probably deal with autoimmune. We take these emotions and we turn them back on ourselves, and the body starts to attack itself because we're not processing our emotion in a healthy way. We turn it on ourselves.
Is there one thing that you did that you view as having the most powerful impact on your healing that you've also seen have as great of an impact on other people?
I mean, I would say the forgiveness work is probably the hugest piece. And accepting ourselves and truly thinking, I am worthy to have these great things in my life. Forgiveness is like an onion. And there isn't anybody, no matter who they are, Melissa, even if they're look to be the most enlightened person, they still have forgiveness work to do. So this isn't like, all right, I'm going to get this job done and then I'm going to be free. That's not how it works. Trust me, I've gone to 7-10 day silent meditation retreats, and I come back all like the Dalai Lama, and then I would see my mom and it would all go to shit.
That's a great example because any daughter will tell you there's something about moms. My mom and I are really close, but there's just a dynamic to a mother-daughter relationship, especially, that is unlike any other. In episode 4, we discussed neglecting our inner child, and I think there's something about mothers who just bring out that inner child. So if there's healing that needs to be done there, moms can be a really powerful mirror for that.
This is an ongoing process, and things will trigger us. Oh, great. Another opportunity to heal more. You know, we're here to have the human experience as spiritual beings. And that means feeling pain, feeling joy, feeling all these things, and knowing that it's a process, and there will be people that trigger things again. It's just another opportunity to expand our heart. So it's not like something we do once and then it's over. It's an ongoing lifetime thing.
You worded that so on point. And it's so relevant to me at this very moment because I was just listening to a spiritual teacher by the name of Craig Holiday, who I'm so excited to say has agreed to be on the show. So expect that in the coming weeks. But he was saying that life is an evolving journey and that every stage of development is a stage of divinity higher than the previous level. And when we open the door to negative emotions and allow them to move through our bodies, such as anger, pain, or sadness, our consciousness expands. And as we continue to open to it from a deep sense of clarity, these negative feelings transform into power. Craig says that the only way to truly know how strong we are, how incredible we are, and how divine we are is through embracing all of the negative emotions. And when we do that, when we walk through the doors of these emotions and embrace them, we start to see that these emotions are actually doorways to our own divinity, that everything has a point, everything has a purpose. And when we access the greater levels of divinity within ourselves, we start to heal the lower aspects that are still struggling. And we are all, every single one of us, we are all on our own unique individual healing journeys. And that's why there's no benefit of judging or condemning other people's journeys or feeling ashamed about your own. Instead, we should all be sharing our stories and listening to each other and offering that shoulder of support for one another. Because I've said it before, but we're all in this human experience together.
Yeah, it really is through the darkness that we find our inner light. It's true. You know, we are all connected, and you're here to connect, and pretending that you're perfect and not sharing the ugliness and your flaws and imperfections, it limits people. I would rather take the risk of being vulnerable and showing someone my ugly side, or what I think is my ugly side, than not, because you find out who your people are right away. And the people that can't handle, you can never say the wrong thing to the right person.
Beautifully put, and I love that you said that because it's something that I have to remind myself every day that I'm doing this podcast, just being so vulnerable with my story and putting it out there, hoping that it helps just one person. And Julie, you have a book launching soon. What else is coming up, and where can listeners go to find out more about you?
Oh, thank you. So the mission for the book is to get the Femme Fatale philosophy and what it means to live clean and drink dirty out there. And you're going to see a complete relaunch of my social and everything as we get closer to publishing it, which is really exciting. But in the meantime, I'm leading vision workshops. And what these 3-hour vision workshops are, I'm teaching people how to create a vision. And in doing so, then you actually have something to work with. So not everyone has their vision dialed in and calibrated and understanding as to like why a vision for your life is so important. I mean, this has been the basis of what I've always done as a creative entrepreneur. I have some scheduled in Florida in December, and I'm scheduling out New York in the spring and tons around LA. So keep your eyes peeled for one of these 3-hour vision workshops, because it's a great opportunity to get in touch with your own innate creative power that wants to emerge. And it's done in an interactive group setting. So just like we talked about before, like, you know, sitting there and writing your shit down by yourself, you only get so far. But if you have to stand up in front of somebody and tell them detail by detail what it is your vision is, it's amazing what comes out. I'm doing VIP coaching for clients. I'm doing something really special with them where, as a yoga therapist, I use a tool called Yoga Nidra, and it's the most profound tool in yoga as far as I'm concerned, because it affects your subconscious mind. So I'm taking their vision and I'm creating a transformational guided meditation with all the details that they create for their vision, and then I'm regurgitating it back to them. So I'm like a bird, like they chew it up and then I feed it back to them while they're under hypnosis. And this has been profound. So look for guided Nidra meditations for me coming up soon online as well that are real basic. But if you want to create your own, you know, go on this 12-week journey with me. That's an option too.
Thank you so much, Julie, for being on the show. And I've never done Yoga Nidra before, but I can feel the universe calling me to do it because a number of weird and interesting synchronicities keep popping up around the topic of Yoga Nidra. So it's definitely something that I am going to be looking into. And if any of you listeners out there have any Yoga Nidra experience, tweet at Mind Love Podcast and let us know how it went. I hope you all had as much fun as I did on this wild roller coaster that was Julie Cielo's life. You can find out more about her at juliecielo.com, which I will link to in the show notes at mindlove.com/011. I can't believe we're on the 11th episode already. If you're enjoying the show so far, please hit subscribe. It really, really helps the growth of the show, as well as leaving a review, which is probably the most helpful thing you can do. We're getting so close to 100 positive reviews, and it just makes my heart twinkle watching this show grow and connecting with all of these awesome, like-minded people out there. So thank you so much for listening. I couldn't do it without all of you. So as always, thanks for giving your mind a little love today, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning into Your Higher Frequency with Mind Love. Head to mindlove.com for a free gift to keep your vibes up until next week.